What up, guys? It's Derp here with a little community video that people have been asking me to make, and this is a tier guide. I'm only going to do S through F, so S, A, B, D, F. Skipping C because there's not that many classes, but I'm going to do a tier guide to which classes have the best base kit or stock kit. So level one out the box, which classes are the strongest? Just basically naked. Um, just using what you get. Just died, don't have any money. Which ones are the best? So, or just starting to play the game. Which ones are the best? Which ones are the easiest? Which ones are the strongest? So, doing a quick tier list. I'm going to be making guide videos for every single class here shortly. That's the next content I have. So I kind of wanted to start this off, and then I'll go through the guides from best to worst. So out the gate, I'm going to start with Barbarian. I'm just going to go down the list: Barbarian, Bard, Cleric. Druid's not out yet, so I don't really care about that. Fighter, Ranger, Rogue, Warlock, Wizard. Warlock's not finished yet, so we're just going to be judging on what it is right now. And in my opinion, right now, uh, Barbarian has probably the worst base kit starting at level 1. Their axe, the battle axe, has the worst or second worst attack pattern in the game, in my opinion. The maul is also up there. It's just terrible to use in group combat. In solo play, the maul is actually pretty funny and can be pretty good. But in group play, in every other sense of just memeing in solo play, the maul sucks. But the battle axe is a close second or second worst. Um, you don't really start out with any armor. You just get cloth pants, a helmet, boots, and you're told to be on your way, right? Um, they do have a lot of health. Their attributes aren't that bad, but they also can't do really anything for ranged. And they have, I would say, the hardest time starting out from level 1. Like the learning curve is going to be the hardest with barbarians, just because of their swing pattern and their inability to block, and the inability to regain health. They don't have anything that will give them health back. So every poor play that you make is going to drastically determine your outcome. Say you're a solo player that's brand new. Barbarian's probably going to be the worst class to start out with, unless you have somebody who's willing to run Cleric or Bard and help you out. And somebody who's going to help you learn the game. So Barbarian is one I would avoid. So they're getting kind of a hard F. I personally hate their base kit. I know some people love it, but I'm not a huge fan. Uh, so yeah, Bard, solid F. The next step is Bard, which in my opinion has the strongest base kit. They get Rapier, which is a fairly easy starting weapon. It has ranged, it's really quick, they have high mobility, they have the ability to pick up a lot of weapons like the falchion, um, other rapiers. They could pick up survival bows to give them some ranged for PvE or PvP. They can use crossbows. They can use hand crossbows. Like their weapon and armor variety is actually really huge. So they can use some they're one of the most versatile classes in the game, in my opinion. They're also very difficult to play with their songs. But if you're just starting out and you're playing solo, especially if you're playing solo and you're just self buffing, you could kind of just sit and play self buff, and some of those songs last for 2 minutes, right? So you can self buff, and it lasts for 2 minutes, and then you just kind of go out and play solo. They're one of the best out of the box classes. They're super strong in group play out of the box. You don't need any equipment to be an effective bard. Uh, they are in comfortable S. They're also one of the most OP classes right now, in my opinion, and they're probably the only class in this entire list so far that needs to be reworked, other than Warlock needs to be finished. Um, with the exception of Druid, because we don't know anything about it because it's coming soon. But Warlock is new and it's a work in progress, so we're not going to really talk about that. Um, I will talk about it, but I'm just going to judge it how it is now. But Bard right now is just OP. super versatile, super easy out the box. They're one of the strongest classes. So they're, in my opinion, they're comfortable as. I think people are going to give me hate for the Barbarian, but sorry, not sorry. Next would be Cleric, and I'm going to give them an A. Their shield sucks, the buckler sucks, but the flange mace that they start out with is good. The frock is actually pretty decent. Um, but just the simple fact that they can self heal sets them and buff teammates, and their utility at level 1 is amazing. So just right out the gate, they have judgment for damage on solo play. Instead of taking the big heals, you can take damaging spells as a cleric. Um, so they're super versatile. They can use almost every armor in the game up to plate. They can't use plate is like one of the only armors they can't use, and then like heavy leather, they can't use some of that stuff. But they can use Templar armor. They can use frocks. They can use mystic vestments. They could use oracle robes. They could use padded tunics. Like they could use a lot of armor, and their weapon choices are limited, but they can also use shields. They can use quarterstaffs. They can use war mauls. They can use flange maces, spiked maces. Um, so somewhat limited on the weapons, but other than that, like their kit is just so versatile, and they can heal, they can do damage, they can self buff, they can buff other teammates. Like they're really good in solo play. They're really good in three man teams. They're basically necessary for a 3-man team. It's just a super good starting class. Um, I'm gonna skip Druid. So fighter is also probably an A in my opinion. I'll put it at B. So fighter is B. They have a self heal, but it's only one time use unless you have this campfire. Um, they have the most versatile weapon and armor ability. If you take weapon master, you could use literally any weapon in the game, and they could use almost every armor in the game except for the ones that are class specific. Um, so that just makes them either solid B or A. In my opinion, I'm going to move them up to A. So cleric and fighter are going to be A. Bard is going to be S. I'm only going to have one S and one F. So there can only be one best and only one worst. In my opinion, Bard's the best starter kit. Fighter and Cleric are probably the second. Um, you could just pretty much do anything. They have self heal, they have sprint. So they're super forgiving and super versatile. You don't really have to worry about buying gear too much because pretty much anything you find can be an upgrade. Um, especially if you take weapon mastery. They're just super good. Ranger is also probably an A. Um, I might move Cleric down to B just because they're a little bit more difficult to play. Ranger's super good and super easy for new characters, especially our new players, especially for people who are coming from like first person shooters or any kind of first person game that comes with like bow or archery or like a fantasy first person game. Medieval combat. Ranger is going to feel super familiar, and it's really easy for PvE. It comes with self heal. It comes with quick shot, or it comes with rapid shot or multi shot or any of the other ones. Um, true shot, penetrating shot, all that stuff. So their skill set is super good. Their armor and weapon sets are pretty limited, but the fact that they can use bows just out the box, longbow, short bow, recurve, or longbow, recurve, windlass crossbow, hand crossbow. They basically have access to all of the ranged weapons just right out the box in their base kit. And then they can also use spears if you take spear mastery. So they also have the ability to be functional at melee. Even if you don't take spear mastery, you could always do what I do and use I do rapier and hand crossbow, or arming sword and hand crossbow, one of those two, and that's a great combo. Because that gives you melee, short, and long range covered with that whole combo, right? You have short range covered with your Hand crossbow, you have melee range covered with your arming sword slash rapier. That's your melee range. And then your short is your hand crossbow, and then medium to long is your recurve or your longbow, right? Or like a windlass crossbow or whatever, or just a crossbow, however you want to play it. So they're super versatile. They're effective in melee and at range. Their attack patterns for all the weapons that they can use are pretty simple. They have traps, so if you like to play slow and be kind of sneaky, you could do that too. They have self healing with their little rations. They can survive, other than the warlock. They can survive in the zone, like outside of the zone, outside of circle. They can survive in the swarm for the longest amount of time. They're just super forgiving to play unless you get rushed by somebody. Once you get into melee range, it can be a little unforgiving, but that's just a playstyle thing, right? Where that's where the fighter has like maybe a leg up, but they have to take a perk to use all the ranged, right? So, and it makes them less effective at range than the ranger, which is obvious. So that's why I'm putting ranger at A. Rogue is going to be probably in D, just straight up D. Um, their base kit is weak because you can't at level 1. You can take hide, but and hide and stealth, but then you're missing out on all of your damage abilities. Like you're missing out on ambush, you're missing out on pickpocket, you're missing out on lockpick, you're missing out on basically everything. So you're not really going to be super effective at doing damage until level 10 to 15. So even at level 5, you can take sneak, hide, and ambush, but you can't lockpick. You can't do backstab. You can't do the other utility or damage dealing or stealthy like creep and all that stuff. You can't take the other stuff that's necessary to like kind of have that full build until level 10 to 15, which is, you know, way down the line for some people. So out the box, Rogue is just one of the harder classes to play, and it's very playstyle specific. One of the most fun classes to play by far, but this is which classes are best out the box, right? This isn't about how fun they are. Bard and Rogue are some of the two of the most fun classes to play just out of the box, but they're also some of the most difficult classes to play. So I'm going to put Rogue at D. Super fun class, super amazing class, can be OP if you get them out a little bit, but out the gate, super difficult to play. Um, Up next is Warlock, and I'm probably going to put Warlock in the B category with Cleric. I would actually put them up at A, or yeah, I would put them up at A if they were finished. I think once Warlock is finished, they're easily going to jump up to A or S tier, and the reasoning for that is because of their ability to PVE. So out the box, if you take Torture Mastery, if you there's one of two paths, right? You could go spells or you could go no spells. If you take spells, you take Torture Mastery, every monster is a health potion, right? You never have to buy health pots, you never have to buy bandages, you never have to buy any of that stuff. They can survive in the swarm for a long period of time as long as there's slow moving monsters around you like zombies or mummies or mimics or even skeletons. If there's something around you that you can leech life off of, you can stay out in the swarm almost indefinitely, and that also only gets easier as you get magical healing items. So as they get geared, the ability to stay out in the swarm or to self heal and just get sustain just skyrockets. So out the box, they're super high sustain. They can use a lot of really good weapons like the Bardiche, the Halberd, Longsword, Falchions. Like all their entire weapon kit is basically if you took like a best weapons in the game list outside of bows and crossbows. If you took like the best melee weapons in the game, they can use literally all of them. So all the S tier weapons, all the A tier weapons, they can use all of them. They can also use everything up to like heavy leather, like the leather armors, and they can also wear the cobalt or the cobalt Templar armor, or is it ruby silver? I can't remember. Either the ruby silver or cobalt Templar armor. They could wear that too, so they can wear even one piece of metal. they can be tanky with some of the best weapons in the game, and they have the highest sustain out of any class in the game, other than maybe Cleric. So, but the thing with Warlock is that they never run out of spells. All their spells take health. And then if you don't want to go the magic route, you also have something that just makes it so you don't take any physical damage at all for like 8 seconds. And it boosts your movement speed and makes you like blurry. So it's not like an invisible. It turns you like this blue into this blue mist, right? Phantomizes is really, really, really good. And you take 50% less magic damage. So even if you get hit by a fireball, you're going to take 50% less damage, right? For 8 seconds. So it allows you to reposition. You can sneak up on mages. It also makes it so your footsteps aren't really heard. It muffles all of your movement in action. It does have some drawbacks, like you can't change weapons, you can't use potions, you can't do any interactions while you're phantomized. Um, but you move super fast. You can't be hit by any physical, so rangers and whatever. You can close the gap on rangers super quickly. You can close the gap on rogues super quickly. You can run away from fighters really fast or clerics really fast. Nobody's going to catch you, right? So, and you could just straight up run through mobs, which is huge. So you could, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity with the melee warlock. It basically turns you into a fighter rogue hybrid, especially with Blow of Corruption. I mean, I have a series where I do naked warlock all the way up to soloing hell with just a warlock. I started out by punching stuff to death with just Phantomize and Blow of Corruption because I don't start out with a staff or anything else. I'm completely naked, no torches, no nothing. That's how easy it is to start off as a warlock with just base kit. Um, you could start off completely. You could dump every single item in your inventory when you first get in there and just punch stuff to death with these guys because of Blow of Corruption. And once you get like a spellbook or a magic staff, you have self healing, infinite self healing. You don't need potions or anything. You could go straight into hell and solo Lich with just a spellbook, right? That's how good these guys are. The only issue is that they don't have a full list of spells, so there's only like 3 viable spells right now, and there's only 3 skills, and half their kit doesn't even work. Like 3 or 2, like somewhere between 2 to 4 of the perks that you can use don't even work right now on Warlock. So that's the only reason why they're not an A or an S. It's just because they're not finished. I think once they are finished and the bugs are fixed, I think they're easily going to be an A or an S tier class, just straight out the box. Wizard is another thing where another one of those where it's could be a B, could be a D. Um, I think, in my opinion, it's one of those classes that's a lot of fun to play. One of the most fun classes in the game, but their base kit is just atrocious. Like it almost makes me want to swap Wizard and Barbarian. Um, I think Barbarian is worse than Wizard, uh, but Barbarian does scale a lot faster and better than Wizard. Um, Wizard doesn't really do a lot of damage until you start getting gear. Um, Once you start getting gear, Wizard moves up into like A tier class, but they're stuck at like a D or an F. Like if there was an in between, like if there was a C, I would move Rogue into C and Wizard into D. But um, yeah, it's just it's pretty bad. The Wizard staff is hot garbage starting at him. Um, the Frock isn't bad, but like there's just their starting kit is just so bad, and it's just because of how their spells scale really, and how gear works. Gear right now is just so imbalanced that wizards really have this weird place where they go from being terrible unless you're very 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 good with them. So like one of the highest skill cap classes in the game, um, to OP as hell once they get gear. But the problem is you have to get to that like blue and purple gear range for them to be OP. And that's just because of the way gear scaling works. If gear didn't scale the way it worked or it does now, Wizard would suck so bad at every single level. Um, but it would also still be one of the most fun classes to play, at least in my opinion. But yeah, that's about it. Um, I know people are gonna have disagreements with me, but this is my list. I think the winner is Bard. They're just out the box the best class. There's an argument to be made for Fighter and Ranger. Um, I think Cleric has an argument to be made at being an A tier. Warlock is probably going to go into A or S after they're finished, in my opinion. Rogue and Wizard have it pretty rough, pretty damn rough out the box. And then Fighter, like, or the Barbarian, you guys are just screwed. Like, I feel bad for all the level 1 barbs out there unless you're running with a team. Because unless you have played this game before, like if you were just like say you're opening the box on Dark and Darker, you fresh download, never played it before, and you're like, fuck yeah, I want to be a barbarian, I want to rage, you know, and I just want to crush things with an axe. I want to chop the shit in half with an axe. I want to be a barbarian. You're probably gonna have a rough go on it until you understand the mechanics and the enemy attack patterns and the weapon attack patterns, because the starting gear on Barbarian is just so trash. The battle axe is a garbage tier weapon. It's super slow. You have to be literally touching the other person, and the attack pattern is somewhat unwieldy. Felling axe is a step up. Double axe is way better. Once you get a double axe into the hands of a barbarian, they can crush. A horseman's axe can also crush. But that battle axe is just a hot mess. Um, their movement speed is also not too quick unless you rage. Uh, they just get starting barbarians just kind of get shat on in PVE and by rangers and fighters and bards and everybody else until the barbarian gets a little bit of gear. But once they get even they could have a gray double axe and that's it. That's the only change, and they go from like F to A, right? Like once they switch out the weapon, it goes from like F to B or A. But just out the box, they're pretty shitty. Same with Rogue, same with Wizard. They're pretty garbage. These three kind of rotate, like these kind of rotate depending on who has the buffs and who has the nerfs. But right now, I think it's Barbarian F, Rogue Wizard D, Cleric Warlock B, Fighter Ranger is A, and Bard is S. Yeah, that's about it. If you like this type of content, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell, everything. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What's your S tier? What's your F tier? Give me your tier list. I want to know. But yeah, hit me up. Peace.